Good morning. Hello. It's Wednesday. I hope you had coffee. I definitely did. I had one cup. I'll have 3 more throughout the day. But today is a very special day because we're going to be talking about cell animation and frame-by-frame stuff, and I love frame-by-frame animation. I love it. When I have done too much 3D work or too much just regular mograph work, I itch. I just have this desire, this need to do hand-drawn animation again. It goes way back to my roots in the beginning of my animation career. I started at a studio in kind of by downtown Columbus called Jamination. Shout out to Aaron Buckles, the man who gave me the job, and to Dwayne Marley, who was the other animator I worked with. Some of these folks have gone on to work at like Zynga, and Pablo went on to work at Little Airplane Studios, who made like Wonder Pets. So not frame by frame, but certainly great animation. Anyway, all beside the point. That was my first animation job, my first real animation job out of college, and that was back in 2006. So anyway, if you're here, I really appreciate you being here, but I do definitely want to get started right away because we only have an hour. You guys don't have all day to watch Twitch streams. I don't have all day to be streaming, so I'm just going to jump right in here. And let's just talk about some cell animation and answer any questions you might have about that, about frame-by-frame stuff. So we're in Adobe Animate, which if you've never used it, it can be pretty cumbersome. Like, you don't know, this stuff just all feels very different than like After Effects, right? You've got this timelines up on top. Why is it there? Where's my toolbar? All this stuff is very can be very foreign if it's your first time in here. But if you're here and you're like, I've used it, but I just don't really get it. I don't really understand what I'm doing. I'm just gonna kind of walk through some of my process for this stuff. First things first, we set the size here of your comp in this little properties window. 1920 by 1080 is what I've got, and I've got it set to 24 frames per second. Let me just have this set to loop while we're going. Loop playback, we got it. Let's go! I don't have my webcam turned on, so I'm going to do that real quick. There we are. Hello! This work from home setup is certainly not ideal. It's like I usually have this nice big desk where I've got my one monitor here, and my second monitor is just right next to it, but it's just not enough space on the table that I'm using. So everything's crammed right now because I have a Cintiq sitting on the same table, tiny table, as my huge monitor. So apologies for that. But anyway, what are we working on here? So there's a shot in something that I worked on recently. And I'll pull up the style frame here. I feel like I need to also put all this stuff inside of a folder. So I'm gonna grab, you can see I'm just kind of scrolling up the timeline here. I don't know if you can even do this. Drag everything into a folder? No, you actually have to. I don't know what I just did. Okay. We're gonna make a folder. We're gonna call it the animation, I guess. There's one weird thing about layering there's a few weird things about layering in Adobe Animate. One of them right now is that because it's built on code and you're working with vectors and the idea is that you can export SVGs, things that are scalable vector graphics that are animated. It has to be, the layers all have to be named a certain way. So every time I put spaces in layers, which you used to be able to do in Flash, or it used to be Flash, now it's Adobe Animate, but you could put spaces before. Now it makes sure that your layers have underscores instead of spaces. So one weird thing, but you'll notice as I'm working here that that's not the only weird thing. Let's turn off the animation just for a moment so you can see this beautiful design by Nuria Bo, I want to say is her last name. She when we worked together, she didn't tell me her last name or how to pronounce it. She did tell me how to pronounce her first name, so I know it's Nuria. But she lives in I believe Scotland, in Edinburgh. I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. She is an amazing illustrator and designer. So she was brought on for this project, and she made this great illustration of this woman who is checking her phone, of course, because this is mograph. And you know, we're selling product here, right? So this, but this is such a beautiful illustration. Oh man, I just realized I forgot to put in. You know what? No, I didn't. I didn't forget to put in those objects in the final animation. Those were requested to be left out by the client. This is the first time I've ever had a client who said, "Just make it more boring, please." So we don't need to go into that right now, but let's talk about the cell animation. So here she is. She's sitting in her chair and she's looking at her phone. So what are some ways, like I thought through, like how could I animate the scene? And I thought, my first thought was we need to cell animate this. We need to animate this frame by frame. I'd love if she could come in from the side of the frame and then sit down, like settle into the chair and then pull up the phone. And there's a few things that I would need to do in order for that to happen, right? So she's got her pillow. She's got her pillow kind of like tucked underneath her arm and like up against her leg. So that's a complicated. Hi, Lana. Is that Lana Simenkino? Let me just check your last name here real quick. I know I can pronounce it correctly if I say it. You just followed me on Twitter, so I appreciate that very much. Simonkova. Yes. Did I get it? I hope so. You, I believe, were at Animate for a while, but maybe are freelance now? I'm a huge, so... Close enough. Thank you. Yeah, so you are freelance now, so congrats on that. I hope that's going really well, and yet you're not... yes, congrats. Woohoo! Welcome to the Freelance Club. Yeah, I hope you're doing great with that, because I know it's a scary leap into the world of crazy. You never know. So yeah, I'm sure. You are super talented, so I'm so thrilled that you're here. Okay, so you get the idea. It's a complicated motion. Like if you have to have a pillow that she has to pick up and then sort of tuck underneath her arm, and then have her legs come up, that can be super complex. So let me just walk through how I am kind of like attacking this. You can see that I'm actually starting with the pillow. Oh man, so this is where the layering thing gets super weird again, because if I pressed on, it turned everything on, including the guides that I made and the roughs. So hold on a moment while I turn off some of these layers again. We need that rough. Do we want this rough? Yes, we do. Apologize here. Okay. That's actually a good couple of layers to turn on here in just a moment. The movement guides. Turn off the rough sketch. We'll keep the couch on. Okay. Blocking. All right, so let's just see how I'm kind of like doing this. So I have her starting at the, she doesn't start off frame because I didn't think there was enough time in the sketch, in the video, to have her literally walk in from off camera and then grab her pillow and sit down. So, but you see all these balls here? You see all the balls that I'm, that's here? I feel like, I haven't taken any, I would say, let's say, traditional animation courses, digital traditional animation courses, since I've been a motion designer. I did do a lot of 2D animation. I've done a lot of animation and character animation over the years. And for some reason, this doing these balls, I wonder if more people are doing this than just me. It's got to be, because there's no way you can really do this kind of animation without having some kind of like using guides like this. So, but this is how I decided to attack this move. I started with the first kind of like, I feel like I sketched, I don't know if you have it here. Yeah. I sketched the, where the woman's body would be to start. And then I found where her joints are going to be. And then the joints, yeah. Sweet. The joints then have to follow these arcs to be able to get to their final resting motion. So in the case of the pillow, let's just look at this hand here, which is the left hand? Yeah. Can we solo stuff? Yeah, let's hide others. And then we'll turn on onion skinning, which is up here in your layer menu. And let's just look at the entire arc of motion here. Is this onion skin? You have to have it unlocked. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can see the entire range of motion here. It's following kind of an arc down like this, then back up and around up to here. And there's spacing in between, so it's like a few frames here, then it speeds up, then it drops down here for a few frames, and then it speeds way up, and then it just kind of rests here. So I'm going to turn this layer off so you can see that once more. I'm going to turn off onion skinning. But watch just the hand motion. So that's an arc, right? So like she grabs the pillow. Oh, I did it backwards. So she grabs it, and then it kind of swings up and around. So that's the kind of stuff that, so when you're animating this, you've got to keep in mind that all of the joints are going to kind of follow an arc, because that's how humans move. They move in arcs and stuff, right? So this is all out of the the Animator's Survival Guide by Richard Williams. But trying to keep that in mind as oh gosh, now I got to turn on everything. So the pillow was a little bit more loosey-goosey, right? But it's still following the hand, trying to follow the hand. The head, we'll just watch the arcs, similar. So down and kind of back up this direction. And I think I used a movement guide for that. Yeah, so I just kind of like... Okay, so let's turn on all the legs. I called this the bottom chest. It should just be the hips, but so now you're starting to see it sort of come together. And I have a left shoulder. Yeah, so when I had the chest, I think I animated the chest first, so that we had a guide for where those shoulders and elbows were going to like rest in place. So it's a lot easier to animate the movement of the elbows and the wrists when you already have the like the main blocking of where the shoulder goes. Does that make sense? So if you know where the shoulder is going to be, it's really easy to just kind of make nice arcs with that. And then when you see where the hand goes, all you have to do is put an elbow joint in there in between. So let me just show you where that is. This is the right elbow, right shoulder. So you can see that. So I animated the shoulder first, and then the elbow just kind of like is in between wherever that hand joint. Gosh, this is just so disorganized. I apologize. There's the left elbow rough. Yeah, you can kind of see like all of these joints just kind of like animate sort of separately, but making sure that there's enough space in between where the joints are going to be. But then all you have to do is sort of like draw the lines in between where the shoulder, elbow, and hand are, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself a pretty decent animation. Okay, we're turning on the right arm. There we go. I might have done both in one. So let's do the left lower leg and then the left. I should put the guide layers in their own folder. Elbow movement. Yeah, so here's where I wanted my elbow movement to be. You can draw these guide layers so that when you're actually animating the ball joint, you have that there to kind of follow. Okay. I think this is all the animated layers. So let's just watch that real quick. All right. So what's the process look like from here? Like this is this is decent for a rough, like for a really rough blocking. So what does it look like when you have to then take this into the final animation? I mean, everybody's kind of got their own method, I would say. For me, I've gone back and forth between animating each limb separately and also just doing it all on one layer, because this all needs to be filled and with a stroke and everything. So the final animation, it's you know, sometimes it's easier to just have all the lines and everything on one layer so that you can just go in and fill really easily and quickly. I am going to turn on this style frame once more and unlock it. I'm just going to move it out of the way so that we can kind of see what the style needs to feel like. And I think what I want to do is start to make these lines in between where the chest meets the waist. So let's just make a new layer here. I'm going to go up to the top. We'll call it torso lines. And it'll tell me, oh, it didn't give me the warning this time, but it creates that little underscore for the naming. And again, I think that has to do with the coding, like the way coding worked with these vector line drawings and stuff. So, all right, I'm rambling. So let me just, I do have to do a little bit of organization here because I want to turn down the opacity of some of these layers. I'm going to grab all the guide layers, which are all like, oops, what did I just do? We want to make a new folder and we'll call this the guides. Anything that's turned off right now is kind of what I want to put in there. This one can be deleted. How's everybody doing, by the way? Having a good quarantine week 3 or whatever it is? Oh boy. Couch. Rough blocking. Alright, we're putting these guides into this little layer here. Just so confusing. Okay, there's that. And then here's the animation, and then we're going to actually, we'll call this rough blocking. And now, I think there's no layers in here that I can't just turn on or off with rough blocking. There we go. And what we can do is actually change the properties of the entire stack right here. And let me talk about transparent real quick. What does the sun look like again? You're talking about the real sun? Oh, we don't know. We don't know what that looks like. Okay, so in Adobe Animate, it's backwards what you would think of for opacity and transparency. But if you go to the layer properties of whatever layer you're in, and you want to change it so that it's like maybe a little bit set back and it's not so blasting opaque, you actually have to set the transparency level up. So instead of taking the opacity level down in After Effects or in any other program, you have to set the transparency level up. So in our case, let's just set it to 80. That's how transparent it will be. It's very confusing, but there we go. And so now what we can do is start to do some of these torso lines, and I'm just going to try to do these nice this is probably going to be rough animation again, so I'm not going to try to be super clean with these lines, because I do want to just make sure that all the lines are there, and then we'll go back in after it's all there and feeling good, and then I'll do a final animation pass. So I will get out my pencil tool. You can use either the brush or the pencil. I think that the brush ends up being a little bit more so you can get thicker and thin lines, which is kind of fun, but not necessarily all that useful in the final animation stage. You really do want to have those those single stroke lines. At least nowadays, that seems to be the trend. So the pencil tool or the pen tool will achieve that. So if I grab the pen tool, you can easily get some nice clean lines, and that's how I usually do my final lines. But Shift Y will get you the pencil tool, which you can also do thin lines like this. I just I'm messing around right now, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like. I am going to use the pencil tool, but I'm not going to try to be super clean with it. I think I'll probably be sketchy like I did underneath. What I was going to say though is that the brush tool, even though it's nice and like you can do thick and thin lines with it, it's a little bit processor heavy or RAM heavy, because it's using, these are all vectors still, so it's using vectors to create all those like thick and thin line stroke variations. So I just feel like it's a little easier on the system. You can play it back faster. Ooh. Okay. So I'm going to be connecting these, like the top torso and the bottom torso, with this layer. I'm on frame 1 here. We only have 80 frames, and usually I wouldn't say there's more than even 30 drawings here, so I should be able to get through this fairly quickly. But let me just get a sense of how wide her torso would be. It looks like it's pretty standard width. It's like this to this, right? So these are the basic shapes that kind of make up her torso, and I think I'm going to try to do that here. I messed up by putting that on its own thing. Just call this the torso up here. Okay. On frame 1, here we go. Her neck should probably be set back a little bit more because of her body's position here. I'm just trying to simplify some of this information. Okay. So I use my period and comma keys to skip forward and backwards on the timeline. This is how you kind of go through. And then I press F7 to get myself a new blank keyframe. And then I want to make sure that my onion skinning is on. Not that far. You know, you only want to have a few frames of onion skinning just so you can see the frame before and after. So we're about right here now. So once you have that blank keyframe, you can just draw right into it, right? Oh, this is where I wish I had my little, I left it at my, I haven't used TV Paint. I've heard of it. Tell me about it. Is it good? So tell me some of this, like sort of the selling points for somebody who's used Adobe Animate. I'm familiar with Rough Animator on the iPad. I think that's a fun program. It's certainly hard to use sometimes. So we moved forward a little bit, so the neck has to come forward too. We still have chill music going? We do. Okay. Oh, that's nice. So Photoshop, the draw to Photoshop obviously is all the textures you can do and textured brushes. Is that all kind of available in TV Paint? Like that's the reason I usually go to Photoshop on like finishing out animations. So I'm skipping forward using my keys. This is where, so if you're on a Cintiq, let me talk about the Express Key remote. So there's a little remote that Wacom sells, which is like $100, which is a lot, considering you've already bought a Cintiq. And iPads are now, you know, the way to go for a lot of this stuff. But I'm on a PC right now, and so far AstroPad is not available on PC, so it will be soon. But when you're on a Wacom, you can use an express key remote so that you don't have to have your hand on the keyboard like what I'm doing right now. No cos brushes. You can make your own. I wonder if so. I bet you can download though a bunch of TV Paint brush packs, which would be kind of cool. All right, so this is where the elbow's starting to break in the other direction. But anyway, the express key remote will allow you to do things like you can scroll on the wheel. I don't know if you remember some of the old like Intuos tablets, but there was a little wheel that you could kind of like rub your thumb on, and it would go. You could either zoom in or out with it. Or you can, what I like to do is kind of like set it to going forward and backward in frames. So I'm like flipping through my my pages, my frames, but also skipping back and forward in frames like this, having an undo button, having your brush, your pencil tool, and your new keyframe button, like all that stuff is just set on my express key remote, so I can just kind of sit comfortably, not have to reach over for the keyboard. It's nice to have that. So, all right, so we got a new keyframe here, which was again F7. This is where the chest is now, so we need to kind of move in this direction. Kind of a mistake there. Looks like you're starting to pick up the pillow here. So the hips really moved forward on this frame, I'm noticing. Maybe we'll just have her squash a little bit more here instead of having her entire chest move in that direction. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we've got a new keyframe here, which you just press F7. And she's starting to turn her whole body here, so this is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky. This is like cleanup stage 1 is what I like to call this, right? It's a rough cleanup. I will definitely have to check that out. Thank you for the recommendation. I actually really like this pose because it feels more volumetric for some reason. Her shoulder might have come a little bit too far down, but I like it a lot still. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to do an F7 for another keyframe. And now we've got her head is right here. And it's turned slightly, so let me just make sure we're on the right. So she's got her pillow in hand now, so it's going in front of the body, probably in front of the arm too. See, I'm just kind of like determining between starting to stretch out a bit, like getting off model, but this is it's cell animation, you know. You've got, when you're a motion designer and you're doing cell animation, it's typically, at least for me, do I do the hair and face? Yes. I would do the hair last because it would kind of follow a different pattern of motion. Like this is where secondary motion would come in handy, or would come in. So once the head's there, I would probably have the hair just being like following maybe a 2 or 3 frame later arc of motion. So that we get a little bit of sway in the hair. Hands, yeah, face last, all that stuff. I would probably do last. It's super detailed work. So I start just big and swooping, and then I try to get to the detail stuff very, much later. Yeah, this arm is certainly the volumes are becoming longer. It's one thing you're supposed to kind of keep in mind is as things stretch or squash or become closer or further away from the camera, foreshortening and stuff, you're still keeping the same volumes, not getting off model. All right, this is super weird. So let's just do our best. Going fast. I was gonna say though that the budgets, sometimes the budgets are great and you've got plenty of time to work with, and that's all due to probably a great producer who is able to negotiate the best possible rate for both the studio and for the freelancers and everything. But sometimes you don't have, and often I would say sometimes you don't have enough time, but often it doesn't matter how much time you have, you could always have more. So right now we just kind of have to go. We got to get through it. I have less than an hour, right? How much time do I have now? We're at 30 minutes, so not bad. We've got about 5 drawings in, just like quick simple drawings. This looks like I'm losing some of that volume once again and gaining some in the arm. No big deal. Let's keep moving. Okay. Because I can always, if at this stage, I can still go back and kind of adjust some of the motions and the volumes, So this arm is down here. And she should be like kind of squashing down just a bit. Forgot I can turn my whole Wacom stylus over to get that eraser up. Looking at you, Apple Pencil. Ready for that. So yeah, this is the kind of thing you can definitely zen out. So I apologize if I'm not engaging as much today, because you can definitely, this is the kind of thing where I would put the headphones on and just crank through animation and drawings. This is where she's at her most squashedness. So let's make sure she's way down here. Her elbow and shoulder is like up here. You can definitely see that this arm has grown in size over the course of this animation. It's no big deal though. This is not for any kind of final product. We ended up going with a rigged character. So if you saw yesterday's, hey Neil, welcome. I'm really happy to have you here. Time charts. No, tell me about time charts. Are you talking about like, okay, so I've seen this on GIFs, like on GIFs, where people have their finished animations and I see little numbers over to the side. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about like where you've got an exposure sheet and this is when certain actions need to happen? Like what's a time? I don't think I know what time charts are. Back when I worked at the 2D animation studio where we actually literally drew with paper, the first one. No, I haven't. You need to. I hope I get to work with you someday, so you can show me like how to do some of the stuff that you do. Because I'm just going off of what I know, and it's just it's the dirty way. Yeah, super dirty. Okay, this looks like maybe it needs to be up here. Let's do another keyframe. So she's squashing down even lower, which is good, because now we got more anticipation. Does this arm come down? Yeah, it looks like the arm even comes down a bit. Oh, you both know what time charts are. I don't know what they are. Can you tell me what those are? So this is like... I'm looking a little wonky on this body here, but... This is where that shoulder probably is. Find it hard without them. They help to know which drawing is which. Ah. Okay. So yeah, so I guess I'm probably doing that, but in a different way. Not actually with a time chart, but with a I'm calling it a like those motion guides I made at the very beginning, where I had, you know, like I'll basically draw, you know, like here's the starting head, here's the finished head over here. And I know those two positions. And I know in between I want her to come down like this. So like I'm just drawing on single layer. This is what I usually do, and this is probably way wrong. I don't do anything the right way, I'm sure. This is, and again, I like to call it the hard way because the hard way is easier in a lot of cases. But I know this is starting head and I know this is ending head, and I want her to kind of dip down like this, like down about right here, and then kind of come up. You know, so I think this is probably the in-between pose where she comes back like that. So that was starting head and this is ending head. But generally though, I'm like, I know that I want her to be ease here. So 1, 2, maybe even like 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then ease, ease, ease. So like I know that it's a nice kind of like look at this, and I determine based on this how many drawings there's going to be. Okay. I don't remember where I saw that. I want to say I was working with Zach Tejan at my last studio job, and he was taking the Enrique Barone course from Mograph Mentor. And he did a lot of these, like these visual charts. And so this is kind of, that's how I've kind of determined spacing and timing and stuff, and also just going off of acting it out and just determining based on like how long it takes me to do this action, how many seconds it's going to be. So if I know that the beginning is here and here needs to be about a second to a second and a half or something, I know that's, what is that, 30 frames, 32 frames. So between here and here I have 32 frames to work with. What did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 drawings in 32 frames is pretty close, right? So 15 drawings on twos is about 30 frames. I don't know. Like, yeah. I'd have to see. I want to see how people actually do those timing charts, because it probably is easier. So, anyway. It's interesting that you guys are doing that. You all are doing that. So now she's coming up. Head still stays down, which is good. because that's a little bit of secondary motion. So the neck is about right here now, so that's just super foreshortened. So it must be evening for those of you in the UK and over in Europe. This is the first part of my day this week. Trying to do an hour-long stream every day, just to get the mograph juices flowing. Get a little bit of energy. Oh, it's 3 p.m. I love the sketch. It was on the show Extras on HBO a long time ago with Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, and he's talking to his agent about what time he needs to have his meeting with Robert De Niro. And Stephen Merchant he doesn't get the hours, the difference. And he's just like, so it's a 6-hour time difference. So take our time, subtract 6. And he's like, so 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. He's like, no, you're going up. You're going up. And he's like, you got to go the other direction. And then he's like, he keeps going in the other direction, but it's still going up. He's like, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, you're still going up. And then he's, so what time is it there? He's like, well, it's 6 p.m. now. So it's 12 p.m. their time. In the morning. It was really funny. Okay. Yeah, look how short this arm is now compared to this one. So I'm going to work on that a little bit. I think it has to do with the foreshortening, perhaps. Let's give it some more volume. Ugh. Yeah, it got ugly here, so. Is it coming forward? Is that what's happening? I think it's because we're settling now into the final arm position, which is where it's up with the pillow. So it's definitely coming forward. But that final, it's like we're working with a final design which has a lot of, it must not have a head here. I wonder why it's so far off here. The rough, what is this called? What did I call this? The rough cleanup. In the morning! The rough cleanup. Yes, I love animating by hand. This is just such a therapeutic feeling. So if you've not done it yet, you've not tried, I highly recommend. You know, if you can afford it, do the Enrique Barone classical animation workshop on MoGraph Mentor, if you can afford it. I think that it's only $150, maybe $200. There's a 40% off discount right now on mographmentor.com. But there's also, you know, not to say that it's the best out there, but like on Udemy, you can find pretty decent hey Jeff, you can find pretty decent stuff. Like I learned Maya last year on Udemy for $10. So granted, I had a Cinema 4D like background, and so I wasn't just stepping in cold, completely cold. However, I still think people could find pretty decent quality tutorials on Udemy for much lower price than perhaps some of the more premium content out there. But yes, certainly if you can afford the premium content, that I would highly recommend learning how to do this kind of stuff if you're a motion designer, because it is very therapeutic. You can just kind of zone out while you're doing this stuff. It feels very personal. There's something about it that feels very personal. Yes, Domestika, thank you. I learned ZBrush stuff on Domestika, and I posted that on my Instagram, but it is awesome. Like, they get right into it. They, you know, they're very, it's super professionally put together, but the content itself, at least from the teachers that I was looking at for the ZBrush and for the Maya stuff that I was looking at, it was very, like, they just get right to it. They don't do any kind of, like, super fundamental basics, and they're like, okay, well, now that we're in Maya, we're gonna make a sphere. It's like, you really, they just jump into it. So if you can get over the what is it, the language barrier, because it's in Spanish usually, at least the stuff that I saw it was in Spanish. They have subtitles in English. If you can get over that, it's really great. Like, the content is great. It's pretty short, but very affordable. Domestika, I highly recommend. Thanks for that shout out, Mary. Jeff, yeah, man, get those notifications figured out. So I got about 14 more minutes here. I thought maybe I would bring up an animation that I was working on last year that I never quite got finished. So it must be like up here somewhere with that shoulder. Something's weird about this neck position, so I might kind of like go back through here and fix this. Let's just see where we got on this. Oh no, I've been drawing these layers up here. So all we gotta do is make a keyframe there. So it's F6. You can drag over your timeline and then just drag this down a whole layer. And we're gonna delete this top layer here. Delete layer. Okay, we'll turn off this onion skin and let's just watch where we got to. So yeah, not bad, not horrible. Yeah, it's very much like Skillshare. Yep. I don't know how much. I haven't really looked into it. How much good content is on Skillshare for like hand-drawn animation stuff. I know B Graninetti did something really cool not too long ago. Yeah, I guess it's like the curated Skillshare stuff. I have a Skillshare course in Adobe Animate. That's just, you know, it's like these basics, but going into right. Yes, I saw that. But I go into the basics of the program and I talk through it's for a walk cycle, so the basics of blocking out a whole character animation, a whole walk cycle, and then finishing it out with finished lines. It's gotten pretty good reviews, I would say. There's maybe 1,000 students total. It's done okay, but no, Skillshare hasn't come to me yet and said, hey, we want you to do a course like they did for B and for Claudio. So anyway, they're great. Yeah, so it is like that. It's like the curated stuff on Skillshare, Domestika. But yeah, there's some really good stuff out there for learning how to do this kind of stuff. So we don't have very much more time. Let me just finish up with maybe a couple of other projects that I've worked on recently. We're gonna pull this screen up so that I don't reveal any. Yeah, let's bring up this Phoenix animation. I didn't get completely through this. I wanted the like a flame to sort of come in from the left, like a little spark to come in from the left and then kind of go up, then as it hits this bird, this firebird comes up and then spreads its wings and then does a quick flap up out of frame. But you can see I used the same technique as I used for those limbs on that woman. Let me just show you. So the wing reference. Okay, you can see this is where the main center of the body comes up, right? Central point of those wings, the wingspan. And then I had to look up, I found some reference for wings, like where the bones are in the wings, because those are what I needed to make arcs out of. And so you can see here under wing reference, here we go. Let's just turn these off one at a time. And then I'm going to turn on onion skinning and unlock these layers. Okay. You can kind of see there's a little bit of an arc of motion as it settles into place. But then that one comes out that direction. So I just made lines in between these. It's really pretty simple when you set up the bones and then just kind of have them animate, which I feel like I might have even done with tweens. If you're not familiar with tweens in Adobe Animate, you can set one keyframe at the beginning and one keyframe at the end, and then set up a motion tween in between them. Let me do that real quick. I'll just show you how to do that real quick. So here we'll do one circle here, and then we'll do at 1 second we'll make another keyframe. And then you can just right click in between them and so we'll create a shape tween. And then what you can do is change the easing on it over here. Tweening, classic ease. This is another area where it's like it's backwards from what you would think in normal situations. So an ease out, what does that look like? An ease out is actually an ease in. it eases into the frame at the end. So it's super confusing. So let's just do an ease in and out, and we'll make it a cubic. So the higher up you go, it looks like it kind of like sets that easing even higher, right? So now you got easing. There's no arc of motion or anything, so that's the kind of thing you could do later. But if you want to do this, convert to frame by frame, you can do once every other frame. So now that eased animation is on 2s. Pretty great. Pretty great. If you have your keyframes already set, you can just do a motion tween or shape tween in between them to create all the frames in between on Flash. It's pretty nice. All right, so let's go back and I'm gonna look up some old stuff. Just for our last few minutes here together. I'm gonna try to find an old Qualcomm piece that I worked on. Was it last year? No. Was it last year? It might have been last year. Let's go to my backup clients. Backup folders. Okay. No. Sorry, just a minute. I'm looking up an old project. This will be cool because you'll see some of the stuff I did for lip syncing. Project files. Adobe Animate. Okay. So this is what a finished animation in Adobe Animate can look like, right? I wonder if he's talking. Huh, the sound file's not on. Should be.
Think about AI and its capability to actually help us.
Let me turn off the music on my lo-fi hip-hop. Okay, if you're here for these last few minutes, let me just show you some of the ways that we do, you know, mouth animation. So I have this sound file. I brought it in. You can actually see it, and as you're scrubbing, you can hear what he's saying. He's saying, when we think about AI and how it can actually help us, or something like that. And you can see the sound bars there. The mouth is made up of a bunch of little shapes that I made and turned into symbols. And so all you really have to do is make so like once you've drawn a mouth, so we'll just make one real quick. Once you've drawn a mouth, oh, actually kind of need it to be above the head so you can see it. Okay, once you've drawn the mouth, why is my pencil such a weird color? Is it because it's on... There we go. It's so weird. Alright. We're just going to pretend like this is his mouth. Right? And then once you've drawn it, you just go to create symbol, which is F8. Convert to symbol. And then it brings up a little dialog box, I believe. Where did it go? Where's my dialogue? Well, it asks you what kind of symbol you want it to be. Oh no. I've lost my dialog box. It's somewhere. It's because I'm using a Cintiq over here. Oh gosh. I don't know how to find my dialog box. It's okay. We'll just finish up. You convert it to symbol, and then you have those symbols sitting over here. They're called, I think I have these just set to graphics. And then you just bring them in as instances on that timeline and just make new keyframes for each time you need to change that mouth. And then you set the new mouth in there. So it's pretty simple. It looks complicated, but it really isn't. I think if you've never tried cell animation, again, I'd highly recommend just giving it a shot. Go into Adobe Animate, mess around with the timeline, make some new keyframes. Just try to do a few drawings and see how you feel while you're doing it. I think you might feel pretty good. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this stream. I really appreciate this. This is really fun for me. Even if there's not like a ton of people watching, it's super fun just to do it because it's getting my energy up in the morning. Hopefully you might have learned a few things. I learned that TV Paint is a good alternative to Photoshop for doing hand-drawn animation with interesting brushes. So thank you, Lana. Thank you, Neil, for joining. Mary and Jeff, thanks for coming in and saying hi. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I think I might be talking about freelance and business stuff, but also, who knows? Maybe I'll jump into ZBrush and do some fun like 3D character work again, but from the creation side, maybe the 3D character design side. I'm not sure. Yeah, I can pretty much jump around just to kind of do whatever people really want to see and want to talk about. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you once again. Have a great Wednesday, and you know, keep on doing what you're doing. You know, you got to stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.